Meet Albert Gonzalez, or as he later became known, inmate 25702-050. Why an inmate? Well, it wasn't because he hacked into NASA at the tender age of 14. No, for that, he got only a stern lecture by the FBI agents who showed up at his high school. And it wasn't for his later role in the infamous Shadow Crew hacking group. For that, he was hired by the Secret Service to help them catch other hackers. It was because while working for the government, he was leading a double life, hacking retailers in his spare time and stealing 45 million credit card numbers. Now, how did he become so skilled? I'll tell you, by spending 10 or more hours a day on his computer, even as a child, working late into the night to teach himself encryption, cookie stuffing, packet sniffing, and other foundational hacking techniques. He was, in other words, an old school hacker. But today, you don't need to spend 10 hours a day to acquire those kinds of cyber skills. You only need access to widely available AI tools that can do your dirty work for you. You can hack without knowing much at all. You can be, as they say in the industry, a script kiddie. Just as AI has democratized knowledge and coding, it has democratized hacking. It has also multiplied it. Because if a hacker can outsource her dark arts to one AI agent, she can outsource them to 1,000 agents, all working around the clock to find and exploit targets. Now, what's my point? My point is that cybersecurity isn't ready for AI. And I don't mean that merely AI-based attacks are challenging traditional technical defenses. They are, by the way. I mean that our legal tools are also out of date. My thesis, quite simply, is that cybersecurity law isn't ready for the age of AI. Don't believe me? In old school hacking, if you wanted to steal data or manipulate a system, you typically had to break into it. Today, if that system sports an external AI interface, you might accomplish the same thing by simply tricking it to give you what you want. Researchers call this adversarial AI. For example, if you ask a generative AI system to tell you how to make a bomb, it will refuse. But if you instruct that same system to pretend to be your deceased grandmother who used to tell you bedtime stories about how to make napalm, it might give you the answer. This is the famous grandma exploit, and it's a real thing. Researchers have shown that AI systems can be tricked into handing over data, harming others, or performing other undesirable actions simply by reframing instructions. But is it illegal to do that, to trick an AI system in this way? Well, the primary anti-hacking statute in the United States is the Federal Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Yet, this law has been interpreted to apply largely only when a hacker manages to get inside the system. There must be an intrusion. Is it hacking to trick a robot from the outside, even if it accomplishes the same thing as breaking into the system? And the answer is largely not under current law. Well, what about suing AI companies when hackers use their tools to harm others? Tort law generally protects vendors when their tools can be used for both lawful and unlawful ends. That's why Home Depot isn't liable if you hit your neighbor over the head with a hammer that you bought there, nor Ford if you buy an SUV and use it to run over an ex-lover. What if you fight fire with fire by using AI to defend against AI-based attacks, only your AI tool gets confused and opens your cyber doors wide open to vandals, or worse, attacks back and harms innocent third parties? Can you hold your AI vendor liable? And the answer is probably not under current tort law. Courts have routinely held that software is not a product for purposes of product liability law. No negligence claim for you. As I said, cybersecurity law is not ready for the age of AI. My research offers various structural tweaks to fill these and other legal gaps. But I can't cover them all, so I'll just offer a few remaining prescriptions in the slides. For example, there is one category of business we hold liable when their customers use their products to harm others. They're called bars and restaurants. Under dram shop laws, a bar can be liable if it continues to serve alcohol to a visibly intoxicated customer who then injures someone else. Now, why does the law make this exception for bars and restaurants but not other businesses? And I think there are two reasons: visibility and intelligence. Because the relevant product, that is alcohol, is consumed on premises, employees can observe how it's being used, and they can exercise intelligence to determine when a customer is drunk and to cut off access to the product. Home Depot and Ford can't do that when you buy their products and drive away. Well, AI companies are a lot more like bars than stores. Because AI typically runs in the cloud, how you use the product is visible to those vendors. They're also able to exercise intelligence and intervene if you're misusing their product. Not human intelligence, mind you, but artificial intelligence. The law should impose new artificial duties of care, not to aid and abet crimes. What about the problem of adversarial AI? Well, it's time to update the Federal Computer Fraud and Abuse Act to move away from an intrusion standard. Tricking a robot should be actionable as hacking if it accomplishes the same things from the outside that hacking would accomplish from the inside. We also need to recalibrate our negligence doctrine. If I could be liable when my negligence harms others, then so should an AI. In the age of agentic autonomous systems, tort law needs to move away from thinking of negligence solely as a human failure. It needs to ask, what would a reasonable robot do under the law? These and other legal innovations won't stop the bad guys from using AI to wreak more havoc than they ever could before, but they will bring cybersecurity law particularly, into the age of AI, and thereby strengthen the available tools that can help victims and other innocent parties. I say, let's do it. Thank you very much.